Meghan Sweder, Marketing Director at JHL. I'll turn it over to Meghan. Thank you.
Thank you for that. My name is Meghan Sweder, and I'm with JHL Constructors, like you said. I've been with JHL for 11 years and was previously with Saunders Construction, Fairfield Development, and Hydro Construction. My career in construction began in high school working for a small general contractor, and that led me to pursue a career in construction after going to CSU for construction management. But enough about me. We've got a really good panel today with operations and pre-construction leaders from J.E. Dunn, G.E. Johnson, JHL, Hyder, and Hensel Phelps. So we'll do some quick introductions and then we'll get going on our discussion. So we'll start with Andrew first.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Gilstrap with J.E. Dunn Construction. I am one of our vice presidents of operations here in the Rocky Mountain division. So that stretches from Pueblo up into Wyoming, and I've been with J.E. Dunn 14 years, and I'm excited to be here and answer some questions.
Go to Eli. Looks like you're muted. We'll come back to Eli. Laura, you want an introduction next?
Yes, so Laura Hoff with JHL Constructors. I'm in the pre-construction department over here. I've been in the construction industry well over 15 years. I've been with a few different GCs in town here and done well over $1 billion worth of work, all in the commercial industry. So excited to be here today.
And next up, we'll have Robbie.
Hello, everybody. Robbie with Hyder Construction. Sorry, had some technical difficulties. Got kicked off there for a minute, but yeah, Hyder's been around for about 60 years. I've been with Hyder about 4 years as Director of Estimating, and look forward to talking through this today.
Thank you. And next up, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Murphy with Hensel Phelps. I was a project engineer in the field and I've transitioned into the pre-construction department, currently working as an estimator. And thank you for inviting us to join today.
Next up, Mario.
Mario Capello with JHL Constructors. I'm one of our vice presidents of operations. I've been here 8 years and been in construction for about 20 years now. So primarily working in the K-12 market, but excited to be here.
Thank you. And then we'll go to Chris.
Hey,
Chris,
Chris Kowalik. Oh.
go ahead. I got confused. Go ahead, Chris.
Chris Kowalik, lead estimator at Hensel Phelps. I've been here for 4 years. I'll let you go now.
I'm just a sponsor. Don't worry. You guys got it.
All right, let's see. Eli, are you able to get back on? Sorry, we're having technical issues trying to figure out this system. Let's see if he's... There we go. Go ahead, Eli. I'm still not able to hear you. I don't know if anybody else can. Thumbs up. Sorry, Eli. If you can figure it out, let me know and we'll come back to you for an introduction. But we'll go ahead and we'll get started on our first question, which is, what should a subcontractor do to get in front of your company? Who should they get in front of or reach out to? Is it pre-construction, operations personnel? And who should be involved from the subcontractor side? Is it the salesperson? Is it an operations person? Is it both? And we will start with Andrew for that first.
Yeah, so I always think it's good to make new connections with both subcontractors and general contractors. And I think last year presented some pretty tricky circumstances to be able to do that somewhat regularly, but I've always been a proponent of using your relationships within the industry to reach out and set up a coffee or a lunch or a happy hour to kind of do an initial introduction and a get to know you type thing. As far as who should be involved, on our side, when we go out and meet with new trade partners, we typically like to bring someone from operations and someone from pre-con. And it works best for us if it's kind of the same on the trade partner side, so that you can cover the full gamut of the life cycle of a project when you're kind of getting to know each other. So that's kind of my preference or my advice there. And, you know, from that first meeting, there's typically a number of things that we might do with the trade partner to get them more widely introduced to our company as a whole, such as lunch and learns or informational sessions with various departments within the organization here in the Rocky Mountain Division.
Thank you. Eli, I got you next. Did you get your sound working? Doesn't sound like it. We'll go to Laura next with Jade.
All right, so I think I echo a lot of what Andrew mentioned, agreeing with it's really helpful to have the pre-construction as well as the operations get involved from early on. The COVID situation has definitely affected how we interact from a very early stage. So, you know, I'll say emails are also very helpful nowadays. I know it's not as personable, but the emails and scheduling a time to come into the office with breakfast burritos so that we can have, you know, some of those folks from operations and pre-con available is also very helpful. But I think Andrew hit the nail on the head.
Great. Mario, anything to add on that?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Next up, we'll go over to Robbie with Hyder.
Yeah, I completely agree with everybody so far. I think it's all about relationships and getting to know each other. So reaching out and kind of understanding the team from pre-con through estimating. The whole company has to be a fit between the general contractor and the subcontractor. So it's estimating and operations on our side and the same on your side. The one thing I would add that really helps us especially when you don't have a relationship to work with, is try and understand who we are before you reach out, so you can tell us what value you provide to us. Each one of us GCs on here and everybody across town is a little bit different in what we do. And if somebody calls us out of the blue and says, and has a really targeted message to us about where they fit in our work, that really stands out above somebody just calls and says, hey, I'm a trade X, want on your bid list. That doesn't really draw us in. So really trying to find out where you fit with what we do is a great lead in if you don't have a relationship already.
Next, we'll go over to Chris and Julie with Hensel Phelps.
Hello. To get in front of Hensel Phelps as a company in our estimating department, we have many estimators, and each of us is assigned as a trade champion to a certain scope of work. And if you contact anyone that you know within Hensel Phelps, we will relay your message and get you in contact with that best person. And we like to set up meet and greets. Of course, everything is virtual right now, but if there's something you would like to help present to our department to help us become knowledgeable of your company, we welcome that interaction. And we don't necessarily have a preference whether it's a salesperson or someone from operations. And I believe Megan will have contact information sent out at the end of this. If you would like to get a hold of someone within our company, please feel free to email myself and I can get you in touch.
Great. We'll go to the next question. And don't hold back on this one. What shouldn't a subcontractor do to get in front of your company? What would hinder a new relationship? And we will start with Laura on this.
All right, so we've got a couple of things that we were brainstorming here before the session. One of the first things that kind of ties into the previous question as well is if you are clear on what you are looking to do, that really helps us. So one of the things that can really hinder it is if you say, we'll do everything, any price range, any location, any dollar value. So being very clear on what you want helps us both get set up to be successful on the right project together. One of the other things that is really frustrating from our end in pre-construction is when subs say that they'll do something that they won't. So if you say you're going to bid a project and then you don't bid it, that can really hinder a relationship. I would much rather you tell me you can't bid a project than just say you will and then don't bid it. A lot of these have requirements, and it leaves us scrambling at the last minute if we don't actually get a bid from you. Mario, I think you had a couple of.
Yeah, I think it's been less prevalent with COVID lately, obviously, because people aren't in the offices as much. But when people show up at our office unannounced and just expect to be able to sit down with the group and present their qualifications or talk about a project, just be respectful of people's schedules and try to reach out ahead of time and get something arranged so that we can make it meaningful and get the right people in the room and be productive in that meeting.
Thanks for that. Chris and Julie, anything on your side that a subcontractor should do?
Yeah, do not try and get a hold of people through social media, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or anything like that. Most of us don't really check those accounts, and most of those are kind of private or personal accounts. I've had a lot of people spam me through them and they get ignored.
Julie, anything to add from you? Okay. Bobby, I skipped over you, so we'll go to you next for this one. What shouldn't a subcontractor do to get in front of you?
Yeah, I'd echo what Laura said. And really the way we put it is don't try and be everything to everyone. Like, it really comes down to where do you fit, because what we want to know as a general contractor is when to call you versus all the electricians that are in our database, for example, or other relationships. So really being targeted on what you want to do and what you do well. So be clear about that. Just let us know where you fit. That's what we need to know. So don't just say we can do everything. Just like Laura said, that's not a way to get added onto a bid list.
Great. Next up, Andrew, anything else to add from your perspective?
No, I don't think so. I think everyone's covered it really well.
Okay. Our next question, thinking of your go-to favorite subcontractors, what qualities do they have? What do they do that makes you want to work with them again and again? And we will start with Mario.
So I'm looking at it more from the operations lens, but for me, those subs have a sense of urgency about what they do. And as soon as they're awarded a project, you see that they're immediately executing their plan and setting the project up for success, being proactive with how they're approaching the project. I think the other thing that we all know is none of us are perfect, and the subs and trade partners that we have the most success with own it when they have an issue or a problem. They don't try to hide it or deflect. They're forthcoming with it and bring solutions and collaborate with us so we can keep the project moving forward and being successful as a team.
I like that. Let's head over to Chris and Julie. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I know Mario's coming from more of an operational standpoint, but I think everything he said applies to the pre-con process as well, of being proactive, owning up to things. We all make mistakes. It's easier than to wait for them to rear their head later.
Great. Let's go over to Julie and Chris.
I can echo that. My two favorite qualities when I think about my preferred companies are the ones who are willing to collaborate and then who follow up by performing or having a strong history of performing in the field. So by collaborating early on, if we encounter any design issues, and we can be proactive about finding a coordination item and getting that figured out before it's going to become an issue later in the field, whether it's with schedule, safety, quality, speak up ahead of time. Also with schedule, if there's anything for manpower, any challenges with that. And as a subcontractor and trade partner, your scope is your bread and butter. As a GC, you may be knowledgeable of some items, but I will be relying on you to help, coach us, share your knowledge so we can work as a team together.
Great. Robbie, anything to add there?
Basically the same, communication and building trust. Help us uncover areas that are not covered on the plans, not to make your bid higher, but to identify those outside of outside the scope, because the contractors that help us be successful, turns out and makes us want to work with you because we can trust you. And at the end of the day, it's communication and trust that makes that happen.
Looks like Eli hasn't figured out his technical issue, so we'll go ahead to the next one. Eli, shoot me a chat if you get it up and running and we'll come back to you.
I maybe got it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right.
All right. Well, if you want to go back and do an intro and then also kind of tell us about how a subcontractor should get in front of GE Johnson and maybe some of the things that you like and some of the things that you don't like.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry for the delay. I'm Eli Schutz, senior estimator with GE Johnson. Been here about 5 years, the whole time in pre-con. Agree with, I was a little bit distracted going through trying to get that set up, but agree with what everybody has been saying here on what to do and not to do. And agree that it's been a little bit difficult.
You're cutting in and out for me. Can other people hear you? Thumbs up, thumbs down? No? Eli, we will come back to you again in a few minutes so you can get it figured out. But send me a chat or something to let me know if you get it going. Sorry. Let's go to the next one. With bid results, how should a subcontractor go about requesting those? What should the timing be? Should that be an email, phone calls? What's the best way to get bid results from your firm? And we will start with Rob.
Yeah, so it's always the challenge to get these out, and it's something that we're always constantly working on trying to improve the process. But generally, give us at least a couple of weeks on most projects to get back. There's just a lot of things that happen after we get your bid and wrap it up, so it's not going to be immediate. So at least a couple of weeks, and reaching out to the estimator that was working with you on the project. Most of the time, we can't give specific dollar or award results because we're working through a multi-phase project where it's a year, 2 years, 3 years long sometimes. So what we try and do is really tell you where you landed if you're competitive. If you're not competitive, we don't want to string you along and make you do additional work. So we're trying to tell you enough that you're still involved and you still have a good shot at winning the job, but we can't specifically say you've been awarded typically or what's your number, where it landed exactly. What we will tell you is what the process is going forward. If we just budgeted SD and we can say, well, DDs are in way, they're going to come out in X weeks or months. Or if it's at GMP phase and we've handed it off to operations, we'll let you know that you're in the running with one or two others, and then a timeline when we expect we'll be able to get back to you with results. Our goal is always to get back to everybody with a results, whether you're awarded or not awarded, just so you can have some feedback on what happened and kind of where you landed.
Thank you. Julie, Chris, how does Hensel Phelps go about the results?
So you do just have to call and ask, or you can email whoever you've been working with and ask. It's kind of important though to know the timing there is our due date to the owner is probably different than our due date from you as a subcontractor. So we might get a number from you as a subcontractor. We may not turn in anything to the owner until the next day. So you at least have to wait until we've turned it into the owner, and then we'll kind of give you you're in the running, you're not in the running, but we don't give out any official bid results until the project's under contract. It's just kind of our standard policy on that. We kind of expect the best and final offer when it's due, and then we hold you to that through the process.
Yeah, it looks like Eli, you might be back.
Maybe. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'll keep it short so it keeps working. But yeah, same thing. Usually, we'll ask for bids at least a weekish in advance for the most part. So waiting a week or two is best, and call and email is all fine. But just know that, things might not be as specific as you want them to be. So kind of try and read in between the lines a little bit.
Laura, anything to add from JHL's perspective, or Mario?
So I'll echo everything I've heard so far honestly, it depends on the project, the owner, and the timing of getting actually under contract to be able to release those bid results. The only thing I have to add is the easier you make it for us to give you results, the more likely you are to get better results. You know, I've seen some people send me a 15-page questionnaire on exactly how they landed and what they did and stack up to the next. And the chances of getting that back are a lot less than getting back just a phone call of, hey, how did I land? Even if we can't give formal bid results, a lot of times we can give informal ones earlier. But as we try to make it easier for you guys, the subs, if you make it easier for us, we're more likely to get a better response.
All right. And Andrew, anything on that? Oh, you're muted.
I don't have anything majorly specific to add. I guess I would just echo the timeline comments that have been made. I think a lot of times our teams who are taking bids and executing a price to the owner are pretty wrapped up with a lot of other responsibilities for 2 weeks at least after the bid. So I know sometimes our people get a little bit frustrated when they're asked, repetitively day after day for the same result, even though they might say, hey, we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. So I think I would just ask for patience throughout that process as well, because everybody's busy.
Great. Next question. At your firm, who makes the subcontractor awards? Is it pre-construction? Is it operations? Or is it a combination of both? And when are subcontractor awards made? We'll start with Mario.
So at JHL, it's really a team effort. Pre does a great job of building bid tab forms and presenting those to the operator. And we sit down with the recommended sub or subs, depending on how things shake out, to really vet that scope and then understand how they can execute the project, get commitments on manpower, schedule, all the other critical factors related to the project. And then ultimately the project manager and operations team will make the formal award. Timing really varies by project and by scope. Obviously, the trades that are earlier in the procurement requirements with long lead times are going to get bought out as quickly as possible. And then some of the specialties that we don't need to get on board as quickly will trickle out. But our goal is typically to get everything awarded within the 30 days of the bid and have contracts in place.
Thank you. Let's jump over to Eli. How does it work at GE Johnson?
Pretty similar. I would say operations has more of the final say here than maybe other places, but pre-con carries everybody through all the way until usually our GMP rounds. And same thing, we'll try and onboard as many of the bigger trades as we can, especially right now with some of the material prices going up and things like that, trying to get costs locked down early. But typically your final award will come from our operations team.
Andrew, how about JE Dunn?
Yeah, pretty similar. Operations at the end of the day is the one who has to manage the risk associated with the project and those subcontractors for the duration of the project. So they typically do have the final say. And we try to keep a member of our operations team, whether it's the primary project manager, senior PM, or sometimes the PX, involved throughout pre-con and construction for some continued knowledge there. So it's a pretty consistent seat at the table, and they kind of have the final say.
Thank you. Julie, Chris?
Hensel Phelps, it's both. What we would do if you're going to get a contract with us is we'll have an interview that consists of both the pre-construction and operations teams. And we'll review kind of the scope, the schedule, the site logistics, and then the contract exhibits. That way, if we do finalize that and make the award, you're familiar with all the documents that you're going to be signing.
And Robbie, how does Hyder handle that?
Yeah, Hyder's very similar. Operations ends up being the final one that issues the subcontract and does the final negotiations. We try and have operations very involved through the pre-con process where we can, so that they have input, so we're not getting to the end with a bunch of surprises. But at the end of the day, it's the operations and the project manager's responsibility.
Thank you. Our next question, when does the project merit more of a negotiated subcontractor interview process as opposed to just going with like the low number? Laura, you want to go for that one?
Sure. So here at JHL, we do a wide array of different types of bidding styles. So we do quite a few hard bids, and as you can all guess, the likelihood of low cost being awarded is pretty high for our bid. Negotiated project, I'm going to say best value, and best value is going to depend on the project and the ownership group. Some projects value low cost, some fast schedule, some value a good partner who can help us with a design assist process. So it really depends on the project and the ownership and what is the best value to them on that project. So there is no real one size fits all. And it goes back to being honest with us from the very beginning on what you guys specialize in, so that we can help pick the best partners.
Andrew, anything to add to that?
No major comments. I think, we do a lot of design build work and a lot of negotiated work. So we have a tendency to try to bring more trades on as early as possible, because, we realize that there's value in getting your insight throughout some of the design stages. So I think it just totally varies by project, contract type, and client.
Julie, Robbie, Chris, Eli, anything to add on your perspective?
I think generally the same for us. I mean, if it's specific trades, historic renovation, things like that, you need specific contractors to look at that. Or long lead stuff, you have to get manpower locked down or get materials locked down. That's really important to bring them on early so you can have a successful project. But other than that, it just depends on the job.
Our next question, do subcontractors have to be pre-qualified with your firm to bid work? If so, how do they go about that? Is there a formal process or form? And we'll start with Andrew.
Yeah, so I would say you have to be pre-qualified with us to be contracted for work, not necessarily bid work, but it is in the best interest of the subcontractor to go ahead and get pre-qualified with us if you do want to look at opportunities with JE Dunn. For us, it's an online system called our Subcontractor Management System that you can actually access through our company website and go in, you create a profile, you have to provide some information to our risk management teams. And once all that information is provided, it usually takes a couple days, sometimes a week to get you pre-qualified, and then you're good to go. It does need to be updated on a 2-year basis, I think, but overall, it's not too cumbersome of a process, we hope.
Eli, how about G. Johnson? What's your process like there?
We've got the same exact system. Yep.
Okay. Laura, Mario, anything to add?
So ours is slightly different because we do a lot of different types of bidding process and types of work. You are not required to be pre-qualified to bid work. We will ask you to pre-qualify on an as-needed basis, depending on the project, the value, and if we have or have not worked with you guys before. So it's a little bit different. We welcome everybody to bid, and then as we go through it, we'll decide if we need to pre-qualify.
Great. If somebody did want to get pre-qualified without bidding, what is the process for that?
If you contact our office, we can help out. As of right now, we typically are trying to invite the folks that need to be pre-qualified, since you aren't required to be. There's no value in getting pre-qualified just to bid, I would say.
Let's see, Robbie, how does it work over at Hyder?
So Hyder, we have a very similar online system. and not required to be pre-qualified, but again, it's getting to know who you are as a contractor. We try and put the right contractors and equivalent contractors on all our projects. We're primarily negotiated with our contracts, so we don't have extensive bid lists. We have shorter bid lists, and really understanding who you are, where you fit is really important to us. So while you don't have to be pre-qualified, if we don't know anything about you, it's hard for us to know where to put you to be successful. So it's in your interest to fill it out and let us learn about who you are and what your capabilities are.
Great. Chris, Julie, Hensel Phelps, what is your system like there?
Hensel Phelps doesn't have an online system for you to go on and necessarily pre-qualify. We don't have that as a requirement to bid with us. We welcome receiving any proposals. We do use pre-qualification to be contracted. To get on a bidder's list, it's best to contact, like I had mentioned earlier, we have our trade champs assigned to someone, but if you reach out to anyone, we'll get you in contact with the best fit. Once we do send out proposal information, we do use Building Connected. So we just ask that if you as a subcontractor use that system, make sure that you've updated your information within there for the best point of contact for that certain scope.
Thank you. All right, next question. Does your firm have a subcontractor rating system or debrief on how a subcontractor performed on a project that's shared throughout the company? We'll start with Eli if he's there. Keep going in and out, Eli. And if not, we will head to Robbie.
I'm here,
So,
hopefully.
yeah,
But no, we don't have
There
any
you go.
formal rating system. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Robbie.
So we have a postmortem at the end of every project where the operations team, the project manager and superintendent go through and the PE and rate every contractor and how they worked on that particular project. And then we all sit down as a team with estimating, a lot of our executive team, whoever wants to join is invited. The goal is to find out who did well, who did not, and then analyze the project overall. And our outcome out of that is to find people that have done really well and reach out and say thank you, and to find if we need reset meetings, what happened on this job that didn't go well. Let's figure out how to make that better and find out where maybe you fit better or maybe we don't fit. So it is something we do on every job, and we really try and make it a useful tool to understand what went well and what didn't, and pass that information back to the subcontractors.
Chris, Julie, anything to add there? Do you have a rating system in your company?
Our operations team does fill out a rating scale feedback system. So it grades basically on the performance of both the office and the field teams, quality, safety, and project size experience that gets communicated to our estimating department. We do share this feedback within our district, and we also want to reach out to the trade partners and echo that feedback to them, whether it's good or bad. We want to share our experiences together. We welcome feedback for Hensel Phelps as well, so we can all improve and do better.
Andrew, how about J.E. Dunn?
Yeah, we have an internal database that is online that captures subcontractor ratings from every project that we do. And it's available to all J.E. Dunn folks nationwide. And similar to, I think, what Robbie said, we like to reach out to trades and either, send them a letter of thanks or congratulations for doing a great job and hopefully having a successful project, or especially with those trades where we seem to have a rub or a struggle throughout the project, we'll try to sit down with them and do a retrospective to see what worked, what didn't work, and how we can both improve based on that experience on that particular project. And ultimately, those ratings are used probably most heavily on the pre-construction side based on project type and scopes of work that we're trying to buy out to make sure we're trying to get partners that are a good fit for that project and who have performed well in the past.
Thanks. Laura, Mario?
We don't have a formal rating system similar to most. We do a debrief at the end of the project and really evaluate who did well, who did poorly, and then respond accordingly by reaching out to those trade partners and giving them that feedback so they can, either improve or continue to be successful on our projects. And then we do try to identify who the team players were on each, with each subcontract partner, so we can look for consistency there as far as if we're seeing a certain foreman that continues to execute well, then obviously we want to know that and communicate that out to our teams so they can make sure they're getting him on their projects, him or her.
And our last question that I have, and then I see we've got a question in the chat over there I'll get to next. From a general contractor's perspective, what is the biggest risk or concern that you see in the subcontractor market currently? Laura, we'll start with you on that.
So one of the risks that we're seeing, and I think it is across the board, not just specific to any of our trade partners, GCs, anybody, is projects slipping. And on the opposite side, projects pop up when you didn't realize they were going to pop up. So it makes planning for manpower, material price increases, material availability really difficult. So I think what we're seeing is just being able to plan accordingly for when a project is going to start is really tricky right now.
Yeah, and on the operations side, I think just the uncertainty in the market has been a challenge. Obviously, we try to be very proactive and identify lead times on products, and they just seem to fluctuate almost on a daily basis. So staying out in front of that's probably the biggest risk on the operations side, ensuring we can execute the projects and get the material there when we need it.
Thanks. Robbie, anything to add on this?
Nope, same thing, scheduling, manpower, lead times, and planning. It's exactly what you guys said. Those are all challenges.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? Eli, Julie, Chris, Andrew?
Nope.
No?
I would say, quick thing is one thing that we've seen recently, and I'm afraid we'll see more of in the coming year, is a little bit of an overcommitment from trade partners. So everybody is pretty uncertain about what the next couple of years might look like from a capacity standpoint. So just making sure that you really understand the commitments you've already made versus how that might stack up against other projects that you're pursuing. Knowing that that's tough to do because things do change at times, but if there is an overcommitment, it can result in some pretty big trickle down effect. And the other risk that we're seeing more and more of is just with a lack of skilled labor force, or the decline of the skilled labor force, making sure that we're putting a heavy emphasis on planning around safety in particular is in the best benefit of, I think, our industry as a whole. So making sure that we're devoting resources there is something that we would expect and appreciate.
With all the pre-planned questions that we had, you have one from a participant, from Nick Williams. It says, what are general contractors doing to stay connected to your trade partners during COVID, since so many of our traditional networking events have all been erased? We miss physically connecting with our partners. Many who are presenting today just wanted to know how GCs feel about the in-person networking piece of our industry being essentially deleted, even if that's temporarily. Anybody have comments on that?
I can start. I think maybe like most people, I don't know, or maybe it's just me. I got a fair amount of virtual fatigue over the course of the last year. So as long as people are still comfortable with getting out, albeit in small groups, and doing things maybe more outdoors, or as things definitely tend to or start to loosen back up a little bit with continued improvement on the COVID front, I think a lot of people are really desiring that in-person networking again. So I know a lot of our people with some of our trades, specifically at job sites, have tried to go do things in small groups outside, golf, clay shooting, even if it's things like just grabbing a beer on a patio somewhere where you can be distanced. That's kind of what we've tried to do to maintain that person-to-person contact.
Thank you. Laura, Mario, anything to add on that?
I'll second what Andrew said. I know that I still welcome going out in small groups as long as we can be safe. I know there's a few industry events that are pretty large out there still that people can attend in the summer and be safe. I'll actually say that I've rather enjoyed getting to know people in the smaller group setting. Because the larger group settings have been eliminated, we've been able to connect on a little bit different level by having people come in smaller groups or just going out for, drinks after work. Instead of taking a group of 20, you take a group of 4, and it allows you to get to know each other a lot better. So as long as it can be done in a safe manner, I welcome it. I think a lot of folks in our office welcome it as well.
Yeah, I think JHL is kind of a whole ready to move forward. Mario, you have anything to add? Now we'll go over to Julie and Chris at Hensel Phelps. Anything to add on that?
No, not really. I think we've kind of echoed what everyone else said. We're looking forward to getting back out to the industry events and meeting people again. But for now, I think the small groups has worked for us. And so far, knock on wood, it's been successful and there's been no incidents because of it.
Robbie, anything to add?
The only thing I'd add to that is we found a lot more just online. We get tired of our Zoom calls and everything else, but there is a lot more opportunity to get face-to-face with people that we're talking to. Working on bids is pulling up screen shares and things like that. So COVID kind of pushed us into having more of those meetings that we would not have normally. Certainly not a replacement for networking events and going out and having a coffee or a beer, but it does create a little more FaceTime with people, our trade partners, that we would not normally have had pre-COVID.
Eli, are you there? Anything to add?
I think so. Can you hear me?
You are.
Great.
Anything to
Yeah.
add to that?
No, same thing. Like I was saying before, there's a few of us that are kind of full-time in the office here, and we all enjoy going out to lunch in small groups too. So we're still doing some things like that, again, in the small group settings. So.
Looks like there's a couple more things that have come up in chat. Apparently, Nick Williams had a great time golfing with Laura in 2019, and it says our GC is still welcoming golf outings. Maybe thumbs up if that's a yes. Thumbs up, all of you.
Oh, that's funny.
And then there's one other comment and question on there that says, from Mark Cohn, do you treat a subcontractor differently for providing budget pricing? Does anybody have any comment or response to that?
I'll jump in on that one. This, for Hyder, a lot of our stuff is negotiated, and when you're working on negotiated projects, you have to start at concept SD, and there's a lot of budget pricing, and these projects take years to get to fruition. So we try and keep the list short, and the people who do the effort over those year plus, 2 year plus, we hope to reward them. We try to reward the people who put in the effort, because it's a lot of work to go 2 years in a process and not get the job. So we do pay a lot of attention to that, and we try and reward that where we can.
Great. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I'll second that, if you put in the effort up front, we will definitely make sure to give, last look at the end of the day, and with having operations involved from the very beginning, that helps us allow us to do that.
Thank you. I think that's all of the questions. It looks like one more question for Robbie. Do you know if that ill-fated Emerson Street project will ever come back around? From Nick Williams.
I feel like I heard it was coming back with somebody else, but no, I don't know that it's happening.
All right.
That's the one that burned down a couple of years ago.
Sounds like a good one. If there's any other questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we can ask our panelists. Let's see. From Tyler Carlton, he says, "What's frustrating from receiving sub proposals, and what do you want or need to see on those proposals?" Andrew, anything on that one?
Yeah, I think clear, concise proposals are the best proposals. And being very transparent with things that you have not included would be maybe my feedback. It's it can be tedious sometimes to work through, 6, 7 pages of proposals. So the more clear and concise those can be, while also being transparent about what is and isn't included, are the best, in my opinion.
Eli, anything to add on that?
I'd add to that, a contact name and number is always extremely helpful. Sometimes those are missing. And then following any breakouts that are requested is extremely helpful for us, especially in the budgeting process.
Anybody else have anything else to add to that? Julie?
For the proposals I've seen at Hensel Phelps, it does look like if your company uses a template and if you update the dollar amount and exactly what the scope is, that's appreciated. Please do a thorough check on your exclusions and exclusions. I have found that it seems like they would type in something as an exclusion, but then it was listed as included. So they added it one place but didn't remove it elsewhere in the template or previously used document. So make sure that those are accurately reflecting what you're submitting. It'll save us time in reviewing and calling and bugging you with questions. And also thank you for everyone who does take the time to submit proposals with information and answer all of the GC's questions. We appreciate it.
Anybody have anything else to add to that? We've got one more question over there. From Zach Dahlman, do work comp EMOD ratings affect decisions, or are these handled at the insurance OSIP CIP levels? Anybody have anything for that?
For G Johnson, that's handled more in our pre-qual process, and it would be part of your rating through the pre-qual.
Anyone else have a comment on that? Julie?
Depending on the owner, sometimes they do require a certain EMR rating threshold.
I'd say for Hyder, it's one of those pieces when you get to buyout that if everything else is equal and you have a much better safety rating, then it certainly puts you in a primary position. So always good to submit them and brag on what you're really good at, because that does give you a leg up.
Thank you. It looks like that's all the questions that we have. So I just want to say a big thank you to all the panelists and for everybody that attended, and sorry for the technical difficulties. It's kind of a panic getting going today. I logged in with just a couple minutes and we're figuring it out. Oh, there's one more question. How many subs per scope are owners requiring for negotiated work? And typically, how many trade partners are you soliciting? Andrew, you got a response for that one?
Yeah, I think it depends on the owner, but I think that for negotiated work, most of what we've seen is a minimum of 3. And typically, this negotiated work, and depending on the complexity of the job, we don't try to invite more than 4 or 5. But that's ultimately dependent on the owner contract and kind of what the project is and who the owner is.
Anybody have anything to add to that? I think that's kind of how JHL approaches it. Laura, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty similar. Sometimes it takes 5 just to get 2 or 3 bids, which is why it's helpful to be honest up front so that we don't invite 3 and only get 2, or invite 6 and get 5 bids.
Anyone else have something to add to that?
Same for Hyder, try to keep it to 3 and no more than 5, unless there's requirements from the owner.
Great. Well, I think that is all the questions that we have. I don't think any more are coming, but thank you again to everybody for participating, and all the contact information is up there. All of the panelists have agreed to contact you guys, or if you want to reach out, they'll answer your questions. And have a great day and a good rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.